Hey guys, this is Kevin for Pixavert.com, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at a new product from Corsair that might spell the end to all this misery and confusion about cables for RTX 4000 series, the new PCIe 5 connectors. They have come up with something which I think is really cool.
Make a couple changes because men are scary pigs and patriarchy is real.
Now I'm going to be trying to avoid getting too scary in this particular video. There's been a lot of people going around being very scary and saying all kinds of scary stuff and running around being very anxious about PCIe 5 and power supplies. We'll try and keep things nice and fun and light in this video. Now, the video was inspired by a video that I saw quite recently where Johnny Guru, who's one of the Corsair experts on power supplies, was giving some information about power supplies. And he mentioned this product that I'm going to be talking about. But before we get to talk about that product, we're going to start off talking about the new PCIe Gen 5 power supplies. What's the situation with those? And towards the end of the video, I might explain a little bit about how we ended up with this mess that we're in with the adapters and the cables everywhere. But first of all, currently the PCIe Gen 5 ATX 3.0 power supplies. This one here from MSI, I'll have a link to it. It's one that I've mentioned before. It is still one of the few ones that is actually ATX 3.0 compliant, and obviously it has got the PCIe Gen 5 cables, and it is ATX 3.0 compatible with the power excursion capabilities, but it is 1000 watts. It's the only one that I can really find. The other two that we found were from Seasonic. Those were about $400, $500, probably outside of the reach of most people, but those are also ATX 3.0 up until about 1000 watts. With this one, the price has gone up $249. It was $199 before, but if you follow my advice and you follow my cursor, you can see that you can still get it at the previous price. We've also seen some price inflation with the EVGA power supplies that I recommended last week. Those ones have gone up, and the prices we were seeing last week were just too good to last. Those are some of the best prices I can recall seeing in years and years and years for EVGA power supplies. Those are going up. Now, the inspiration for this video is this new product from Corsair. This one is fascinating for a number of reasons. It gives us the 600 watt connector with the data cables. This one is PCIe Gen 5. It will work with the new RTX 40 cards, RTX 4090, the RTX 4080, but it should allow you, and this is what's really cool, should allow you to connect with your existing power supply. And it will give you the full 600 watts. Could save some people out there a couple of $100 in not having to upgrade your system if you've got a high quality Corsair power supply. Maybe 1000 watt, 1200 watt. You may be able to continue using that with the PCIe 5 connectors, just using this $20 cable. Now, I first heard about this last week before I made my previous recommendation. I didn't mention it because we didn't even have a price. And secondly, we didn't have a launch date, and we still don't have a launch date. The cable is going to be compatible with some of Corsair's power supplies. I will link to the ones that I recommend below, but it's not going to be universally compatible, so I will just choose the ones that are suitable for use with this one. And I will also update the video description when this does actually become available in the shops in North America and hopefully around the world. Now, the reason I decided to go with the video now is because I saw a video with Johnny Guru, who is one of Corsair's representatives, and he's also a kind of renowned expert in power supplies. And he was doing a video where he was trying to tamp down some of the panic and some of the crazy stories that we're hearing about power supplies. And he was just trying to get everything into proportion. So there's a lot of scare stories going on at the moment, and he was just trying to give some useful data. Johnny Guru had some really fascinating stories to tell. I will link to the video if you want to see that, and I will also retell a story that I think is fascinating. In that video, Johnny Guru mentioned the philosophy that Corsair is following, and it was really that which triggered me to make this video even before the product becomes available. And I hope other companies, maybe EVGA, will maybe think along the same lines. Now, the solution they've come up with the two PCIe Gen 8 connectors at the power supply wall with the 600 watt connector at the GPU, that's my preferred option. We have seen that also with Seasonic, and I don't know if Seasonic will come up with something like this as well. It'll be good if they do, but right now I'm really liking what I see from Corsair. Now, another really cool thing about Corsair is that they sell these mods, these cable mods. So you can get cable mods from different companies, but they actually sell their own cable mods for their own power supplies. And that means you're going to get high quality power supply and high quality cables. And you can sort of do whatever, express your personality. You can favor a particular color scheme. And I'll link to some of these as well below. They will work with the latest Corsair power supplies, and they should work with the ones that I'm going to be recommending in the description. Now, how did we get to where we are right now with all the tangled mess with PCIe 5 connectors and adapters? Why do we have 4 adapters inside some of these boxes? So way back when, we had a situation where we could connect one 8-pin connector to the power supply that would branch out into 2 connectors, and those connectors would be a 6-pin connector with a 2-pin data cable. The data cable would change the behavior of the 6-pin connectors. The 6-pin connectors would work to provide a 75 watt power to the graphics card. However, once the data cables were connected, you now have an 8-pin connector which is supplying 150 watts to the power supply. 2 of those allow you to get 300 watts from a single 8-pin connector. And I think that's the basis for some of these new adapters that we're seeing from Corsair. Now, this arrangement worked very well, and I think Nvidia, who came up with this, felt that it was good, so it worked for nearly a decade or so. Then eventually we got to a situation where Nvidia's graphics cards started off fairly small. They got larger, then they became larger. They used to have a single fan, then they got to 2 fans. And once you got to that sort of situation, we had lots and lots of PCIe 8-pin connectors on the graphics card. When we got to the 30 series, you'll just take a look there. We can see with the 30 series, there is just one connector on the PCB, on the printed circuit board. That connector is a 12-pin connector that came through with the 30 series. Now, the 12-pin connectors came in with the 30 series, and they're going to go out with the 30 series. They're not going to continue forward. Those 12-pin connectors did not take up too much room on the PCB, on the printed circuit board. And that was the intention behind the move to the 12-pin connectors. Some of Nvidia's partners wanted to take us forward with the 16-pin connector. And that would have the similar footprint to the 12-pin connector, but it would break backwards compatibility. So there's no backwards compatibility between the 16 and the 12-pin connector. However, there is a very, very small footprint on the PCB. And what that allowed Nvidia to do was to redesign the PCB into this very different type of shape, very innovative shape. They could then invent new cooling solutions for their graphics cards, which had previously run fairly hot. So we have got now improved cooling for the graphics cards, innovative cooling solutions, air running right through the graphics card and air moving in an opposite direction. That's something that I think we might have actually seen copied to some extent with Galax, one of their partners. So that was the innovation. That was the reason why they wanted the smaller connector. They wanted to be able to have less of a footprint on the PCB. And that's how we got where we are now. The reason for the 4 connectors is because they wanted to have sufficient juice going through to the graphics card so that if some of the connectors weren't properly seated inside the adapter, you would still get the 600 watts that you needed through at least 2 cables. You need at least 2 cables to those 4 adapters for it to carry the full 600 watts. So some people might not properly seat the 8-pin connectors into the adapters. They would have redundancy by having 4 connectors. So you'd have 2 chances to get it right. And that is how we ended up with 4 adapters. So hopefully this new innovation from Corsair will allow us to reduce the number of cables and the number of junk, the amount of junk inside the PC case. But guys, that has been the story. I'm interested to know, are you guys interested in the PCIe 5 connectors? Do you like the ATX 3.0 standard? Which one are you going to be going for? And maybe you prefer the 8-pin connectors. Let me know in the comments below what your preferences are. Guys, that's going to be it for this one. I'll see you in the next video.